and we will start. I'll give it one more minute.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? Just let me know in the chat if you cannot. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Great. Okay, it's 12:01. We are recording, so we will get started as I keep admitting people, which is wonderful. So good day, everyone, and welcome to the third and final briefing of this year's Archival Vistas series. I am Professor Karen Trivett, Head of Special Collections and College Archives at the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is part of the State University of New York. I'm also a steering committee member of SAA's International Archival Affairs section. Now, just to remind you, and for full transparency, we are recording today's discussion, and ultimately it will be viewable with the previous two recordings on the SAA channel's IAAS playlist. And after I get through with this beginning housekeeping message, I will put the links to the previous discussions in the chat. Now, if you haven't already, please mute your microphones and disable your video to keep things running as smoothly as possible. And also, we will reserve time at the very end for as many questions as possible. Please put them in the chat as they occur to you so that you don't forget them. Now, we conclude today's journey, this whole series journey, in fact, with a most poignant finale as we host a conversation with Dr. Maryna Paliienko. She is the head of Archival Science and Special Branches of History Department at the Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome, Dr. Paliienko.
Thank you very much, Professor Trivett. My name for so wonderful introduction and presentation of me. Yes, my name is Marina Paliienko. I am from Ukraine, from Kyiv, from our very famous, outstanding, very famous university, Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv. And I would like to represent to so wonderful audience some information about our university, about our department, because I represent Faculty of History, Department of Archival Science, Special Branches of History. And as a professional, I'm a historian, archivist, and also a university professor, educator. And I have an experience for lecturing, for having lectures in history, archival science, and historiography for more than 20 years,
Wow.
And yes, of course. I have been working at this university from the middle of 1990s. Yes, it's from the last century.
And you've seen a lot of change then.
Yes, of course, and it's a really very interesting experience. And if you allow me, at the start of our conversation, I would like to share my screen and to have not long but presentation of university, some words about university, our department, and also about the situation in with our archives during this time. And then we could continue, and you could ask me, you could interrupt me or ask me a question. Your pleasure, yes.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll try to share it. Oh no, could you give me able to
Yes.
screen? Yes.
Let me see if I can do that.
Yes. How you can do that if you could?
I will make you a co-host.
Yes.
And
maybe.
that should make it easy for you to share your screen.
Yes.
But let me know if there's a problem.
Yes. Maybe here.
Aha.
Okay.
Looks good.
You can see now maybe in all screen. I don't know. No, maybe this perfect. Yes, so you can see.
Yes, it's fine.
Yes, it's okay. It's okay. You can see the screen,
Yes.
and now you can see. I can describe some aspects. The whole is theme as archive, memory, and identity. Maybe some words. I'll tell you some words about our archival studies or archival science department at our university. And the second part of my presentation devoted to the theme Ukrainian archives under the threats of war during archives at risk.
Yeah.
At risk. Yes, and it is my real pleasure and great honor for me to have a meeting today and represent this topic during the session of Archival Vistas Briefings devoted to archives at risk. And first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you, dear Karen, dear Professor Trivita, for invitation and fruitful cooperation.
Pleasure.
And on this slide, you can see our university. And at this building, in the first half, no, at the middle of the 19th century, our ancient archive, Kyiv Archives of Ancient Acts, was founded in 1852. And I'd like to note that the university was founded in 1834, and in 20 years, it was founded, the archives that was situated here, and it is famous. Today it is a large historical archives, central historical archives in Kyiv. So we have a long and outstanding traditions, not only in all branches of humanitarians and medicine and law and many other faculties, but also in history and archives. And then in the middle of the 20th century, at our university was founded the first department of archival science in Ukraine, which I have the honor to represent today. So our department was founded at the Faculty of History in 1944, during the Second World War. It was first, and for a long time, till the end of the 20th century, the only educational center for professional training of historians, archivists, not archivist as the only profession, but like a combination, yes, with historical roots, because it was we know that during the 20th century, many archivists has historical background as education, yes? So background. The establishment of this department was closely related to the urgent need to return and preserve the national documentary holdings at the end of the Second World War, because they were transferred, they were looted during the war, and then the new generation of professionals need to for qualified processing and preparing for use of these documents as a historical source. The implementation of these tasks required training of professional archivists. And many of our graduates realized themselves in the profession. So our department has more than 75 years now. And some of our graduates headed leading archival institutions. In particular, among our graduates was one of the head of the State Archival Committee of Ukraine, the top person of our archival hierarchy, Gennady Borek, famous archivist and historian. And also we have among our graduates directors of some central archives, historical archives, audiovisual archives. No, it's very interesting, yes. But nowadays, in the conditions of the digital transformation of society and significant changes that are taking place in our profession, in Ukraine, the training of archivists recently began to be carried out within the framework of new speciality, not on history background, but we launched a new educational program that in specialty information, library and archival affairs in the field of combination, multidisciplinary specialty, and our educational program called Archival Studies or Archival Science and Records Management. We trying to combine and to include interdisciplinary approaches based on archival, historical, informational, and documentary components. And now I'm planning to tell some words about my background. Because my studies at the university and professional development are also connected with this department, with our faculty. I graduated from the Faculty of History, where I specialized in the field of archival science. And then I had some practical professional experience. I worked at the Central State Archives of Supreme Authorities of Ukraine. We don't have one national archives or national archives and records administration as in US. We have a network of central archives, now 7 central archives. And among them, one when the main documents of the authorities from the history of the 20th century stored.
So it sounds like a regional system.
Yes. This is system. It's not only in our country. We have this system from our. Maybe from legacy of our union organization with it's not only in Ukraine and not only in Russia, but in Baltic cities. We have some archives, not only national archives in Poland. Many different, but we don't have one archive in 19th century too, because we have different background and different tradition. Okay. And now we are trying to change and to adopt our system, our network of our archives to the European tradition to the modern tendencies in Europe archivals building.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my PhD dissertation that was devoted to the history of the cultural and scientific development of Ukraine, not only archives in the 19th century. And then the doctoral thesis was devoted to the theme of archival collections and archival institutions of the Ukrainian immigration during the interwar period, during 1920s, 1940s, mainly in Europe, their creation, activity, and their fate of their documentary collections during interwar and during the Second World War periods, yes. And then my research interests deal with comparative archivistics, not only Ukrainian. I present to my students courses on foreign archivistics, comparative archivistics, what European tradition, American, Canadian traditions. Also, archival management in the digital age. I focus my interest also on cultural heritage and collective memory studies, as well as access to archival information. Foreign archival Ukrainica. Ukrainica is a term as Paliienko, Ukrainica, maybe it's devoted to Ukrainian documents disseminated all around the world, not only, yes, abroad. And I researched these documents not only in Ukrainian archives, but I worked with Ukrainian topics in different countries, mainly in Poland, in Czech Republic, but some collection in private institutions also, and archives and libraries in France, in Austria too. Since 2070, I'm head of the Department of Archival Science, as you know, and I'm trying to continue to develop this, develop this tradition. I would also note that I have a valuable cooperation with the international. I'd like to note about the International Institute of Archival Science in Trieste, Maribor, and Department of Archival Science and Records Management of the University Alma Mater Evropea, Maribor, Slovenia, headed by Professor Peter Pavel Klasens. This is a very powerful center of archival science in Europe, which creates excellent opportunities for deepening cooperation among professionals and development of archival science practice and training of archivists. And I am very grateful to this institution, as well as to Alma Mater, for expanding my professional vision of archives and contacts, and in particular, acquaintance with Professor Karen Trivet.
Well, let me interject just a message that if anyone in our room today is interested in a PhD in archival science, I am pursuing it with Alma Mater and would be very happy to talk to you about it. So that's my sales pitch.
Yes, thank you very much. And they have tremendous courses, conferences, large conferences, and a very valuable archival school, not only during the semester, but every autumn. They organized in cooperation with the Institute Trieste Maribor Archival School, Autumn Archival School, and very valuable valuable journal, Atlanti, and a new version, Atlanti Plus, that now pointed at A-levels at Scopus, and introduces web resources.
Exactly.
Web basis. And according to the archival tradition, archival publishing, I'd like to stress and tell some words about Ukrainian scientific journal, scientific and practical journal. It has title Archives of Ukraine in Ukrainian Archivi України. You can see how it covered now. It also has very long traditions from it issued from 1947, more than from 75 years, 75.
So incredible.
Yes, and we have all volumes online. They digitalized, and we can read them and download them, and we use these articles from this journal during our educational process, and we invite our colleagues and some words about this journal during the wartime, because as you can see in its cover, we have some photos, historical. Today, these are historical photos from our archival holdings that depicted some fragments, audiovisual. It's visual documents from the history of this war, the source of this war.
Wow.
And it is worth noting that from beginning of the full-scale Russian war against Ukraine, we considered to renew our editorial policy and pay special attention to the problem of archives and the threats of war. The these four journal issues from 2022 and the first one from the 2023 contain valuable publications devoted to the problems of archives, war, preservation of cultural heritage, national identity, proactive documentation during the war, and saving the memory of the war. You can see some titles of the articles. Anatoly Fromov is the head today of the National Archival Service of Ukraine, State Archival Service of Ukraine, and his words to the archivist from the first days of war. The whole world supports us, Ukraine will win, or he said that grateful to every archivist who continue work during the war. And we have some scientific articles devoted to preservation of national identity in Ukrainian archives or Ukrainian archival science in the challenges of war, digitalization of information resources of archives. And I also want to thank you, Karen, for publishing a valuable research in our journal in English about trusted digital repositories.
Thank you.
Context. Thank you very much. And you can. We also invite everyone for cooperation. And now, if I can, I could show the screen. you can see this article. In English, we have all information about all articles in Ukrainian and in English. And from the last years, we are trying to practice to publish English, fundamental English researches also, to develop our cooperation and to promote our archival studies too.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like on the screen there's the URL for the website to get to the journal.
Yes, we have now. You have the URL address here on the slide, and here you can see
Oh, great.
the QR code. From this QR code, you can you can go to the website of the journal. You can go to the website of the journal and everybody can use this information.
Wonderful.
Yes, of course. Now till 10 minutes maybe. Yes, I'll try to focus.
I was going to give you a warning at 12:30.
Yes, okay. 10-12 minutes to focus your attention on some issues devoted to the activity of Ukrainian archives during these last years, since 2014 when the war began, and from the 24th of February 2022, this was an awful day to all of us when the full-scale Russian war against Ukraine began, continue in this from this date. At this slide, you can see some documents from Ukrainian archives because our country has the ancient historical roots which can be traced by archival documents from the Middle Ages. And the chronological bodies of our documents that stored in our archives cover period from the 12th or 13th, 14th centuries till the 21st century. In the process of evolving the independent Ukrainian statehood during the last 30 years, archives transformed into open democratic institutions in our country. And in their activity, they demonstrate leading tendencies of Ukrainian societal development, participating in democratization and decommunization processes, as well as providing an important source base for scientific researchers too. But the war is a deep wound in the soul of the Ukrainian people, and it has tremendous and awful impact on the archival sphere too. You can see that among the main threats of war for archival holdings, life and activity of archivists, we can underline the threats to national security, the destruction of cultural objects and documents as a result of military operations and bombardment, and also the threat of seizure and usage of documents by invaders. Yes. Yes, and it's really, I describe and focus on these aspects. On this slide, you can see that our archives have been damaged as a result of bombardment. Mass bombing of Ukrainian cities threatens to damage the buildings that house archival institutions and destroy the documents themselves. Though at the beginning of the full-scale aggression on February 24, the archival department of the security service in Chernihiv was destroyed. There were stored more than 20,000 files of former KGB documents related to the repressive policy of the Soviet authorities towards the Ukrainian population, Ukrainian people. Also was damaged the building of the state archives of Kharkiv region. But the main, you can see the damages on the below the Kharkiv, the building of the Kharkiv region archives, and this upper photo, you can see the building of Kherson region archives after the shelling of the city by Russian troops on the night of February the 3rd, 2023. 2023, and
almost a full year after the onslaught of the invasion.
Yes,
wow.
Yes, but nevertheless, of this bombardment in Kharkiv and Kherson, archivists continue working at their working places, not when they can. One of the archivists describing the work in Kharkiv City Archive underlined that now we are digitalizing the documents of the Kharkiv City administration from the period of occupation during the Second World War. Of course, no one thought that we would experience in our time what our ancestors once experienced. It is quite difficult to work with such documents where there are many parallels, many allusions with the war, with the Second World War. On this, but it's not only bombardment. Our archives captured and looted by invaders, and especially very huge losses we have after a full-scale invasion and occupation, temporary occupation of the Kherson and Kherson region. The Kherson regional archives suffered the greatest losses. Up to half of the collection were stolen when the invaders, you can see the empty shelves of archives and the truck with the documents, with the medieval documents, with the very rare, unique documents that have been stolen from the building of archives when invaders left the Kherson.
Marina, we actually have a question that's pretty timely in the chat. May I send it to you or ask it of you?
Yes. Can we ask?
It's from Miriam. I hope I say that correctly. Where were the archivists able to rescue any records, and did they have digital copies?
Yes, of course. We have for some years very big processes of digitalizing our archives, and now with the help of our international partners from European countries, and not only from European, from America too, from different organizations and state archives of different countries and some public organization. We digitalize documents, and save not only in on resources, on hard technique, but also in the cloud storages, too.
Right.
I know that some archivists in Kherson tried I forget the proper word. Not to show, to hide some important
Yes,
documents. And the invaders didn't stolen them.
right.
Yes, it was. Yes, of course, too.
We actually have another question that I think would also be appropriate for right now.
Yes.
Valerie asks, do you have experience with the SUKO volunteer efforts, Saving Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Online?
Yes, we have saving Suho, saving Ukrainian cultural heritage. Yes, we have a lot of initiatives from the civil organization, from the volunteers that from the first days of full-scale invasion try to cooperate and to help Ukrainian, not only archivists, but to museums, to libraries, and to digitalize holdings of this institution. Yes, and from one hand, we have the policy of our State Archival Service of Ukraine that try to focus attention on the providing assistance to state archives, monitoring the situation, and to develop cooperation with international organization. And from the other hand, we have a very strong civil society and some volunteers and some organization that try to help to save and cultural heritage, documents, museum artifacts, as well as to provide proactive documentation of the events of war, and focus the history, not only audiovisual documents, yes, but they have program in memory studies, oral history. They interviewed people. They help to storage their documents, and maybe they also help. It developed the cooperation between archivists as professional and representatives of another organization.
And how secure would you say your archives are at your university? Do you feel they are secure?
No, in Kyiv, yes, we have our archive, archival fund. When I mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, this historical archive that is situated in this building, it was stolen. It was stolen during the Second World War in 1943 by Nazis. And then it was ancient act books and documents, but then during the after-war period, No, two-thirds of these documents were returning to Kyiv. And now we have the fund of our university archives. Some of these documents storage in Kyiv archive, in another building in State Archive of Kyiv City, Archive of Kyiv City, and the administrative archives in this building too. But now it's rather security, because we have shelters, we have no proper. I hope, because I hope. Yes, of course, I hope. And then maybe two words about the international support. At the beginning of full-scale war, the International Council on Archives voted and implement the resolution that suspend the relations with the state archival institutions of Russia and Belarus, and the support. We very gratitude to all international organizational and national archives of different European countries, US, Canada, and so on, for supporting Ukraine. And if we mention the support of US colleagues to our archivists, you can see your narrow, famous landed archives colored in the first days. This is photo from the 4th of March 2022. From the Twitter of the National Archives and Records Administration, and you can see it will. It also very important, not only helping with digitalization with some funds, but the moral support to Ukrainians and to our archivists, and also the Society of American Archivists, together with the International Council on Archives, urges the Russian government from the first days of the invasion to implement the Convention for the Protection, the GAC Convention for the Protection of Cultural Heritage. But to our pity, invaders don't want to follow all these conventions. And yes, and it's really awful to our cultural heritage now. It's real threats. And it is very interesting to us and very important to us to research and the American experience too, the works of Walter Leland during the Second World War, the famous works that was devoted to the role of archivists in time of emergency, the works of Ernst Posner about the public records under the military occupation. All this experience, it seems to me, very valuable to Ukrainian archivists in these days too, in our days. And I know that American archivists, not only archivists, but also heritage and cultural scientists and practitioners, they develop some rules for protection of cultural resources against the hazards of war. And you have several editions of these rules, and I think that it's very useful for us in our circumstances too, in our days too.
Absolutely. And how would you describe any involvement of the International Committee of the Blue Shield? Has it been of any help to you at all?
It seems to me that help our institutions. I don't know the specific action of Blue Shield according to the archival documents, but I knew that they help to museums, to our museums,
of course. Yes, yes.
Museums and library collections. And I hope that in the near future we have more connections with the Blue Shields and archival organizations too.
Yes.
Archival organizations. And at these last slides, you can see that our archivists try to focus attention of the public civil society through documentary expositions, devoted to the occupation and reoccupation of some regions of Ukraine. And this slide, you can see the documents from the audiovisual archive that depicted the towns of Kyiv region, which was deoccupied, which were deoccupied in spring 2022. And you can see some some documents, some photo documents from Borodanka or Bucha or some near towns, little and very nice, very beautiful towns. In suburbs of Kyiv that were. And you can see what happened with not military objects, but medicine, educational institution near Kyiv, not only in the south or near Kharkiv or Kherson, but 25 kilometers from the center of Kyiv.
Wow!
And we would have these damages in Kyiv, but. So thanks to God, and thanks to our defense, our warriors, brave warriors, we don't have. And thanks to support of the democratic countries and democratic societies from around the world, and USA and European Union, and Canada, we don't have these awful damages and destruction in Kyiv.
It's just awful.
It's awful. And some words about our university base. We have at Taras Shevchenko our database of our heroes. Heroes do not die. About our alumni or our professors, our students that defend our motherland.
Yes.
And to our pity, to awful the dead now, and we try to formate archive and memory, save memory about people, about our family, university family.
Yes.
Big family, and we have this virtual database and archive, not only virtual, but we try to preserve their documents, some of their archives, and some of their memorabilia in our museum, university museum. And in conclusion, I'd like to emphasize that it is very important to save archives, because Ukrainian archives is a valuable part of our, not only the Ukrainian history, but the history of the Europe, and the history and cultural heritage of the whole world, the whole democratic world. And the world today supports Ukraine in the war for democratic values, and we all must demonstrate the world our readiness to defend our own national interest and to respond to the challenges of war, not only with the weapons in our hands, but also in the informational, cultural, and scientific spheres and space. And success in this largely depends on the integrity and preservation of Ukrainian archives, and the role of the archivists in this in the defense of the democratic values. And our history background is very, very important. And thank you very much for all who supports Ukraine, for you, for Americans, for Europeans who supports our country in this awful invasion and war. But we must win. We have to win. We have to win together.
Absolutely.
And now I stop sharing my screen. And
oh, that was wonderful. It was so informative, because it sparked in me several questions. We have about 9 minutes, but I want to just open the floor. We're not a huge crowd. We're about 13. So if anyone would like to ask a question, then we have one more in the chat, which I will read shortly. But just unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask a question. Miriam asks, could you talk more about the daily professional life of archivists in Ukraine right now? And that hinges on a question I had, which was, how has the invasion and occupation altered your daily operations?
Yes, of course. From the first days of the full-scale invasion, the daily life of all our people, not only our archivists, were different and changed. Many archivists worked on distance, not to their offices, not at their offices these days during the first weeks, in Kyiv region. But all chiefs of the institutions, they were on their workplace, they were at their duty, and they try to coordinate this activity. They try to save documents, to elaborate the plans of coordination of transfer some important documents into safe places. And then during the second half of the 2022 years, the daily routine was changed, and a lot of archivists return to their workplaces, and the main part of their job today is to digitalize, from one hand, to digitalize the documents. Then they work at their places. They continue their work. And it's very important. And I also remember then we continue at our university. We only 1 month. We only 1 month don't have lectures. Don't have lectures.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes. During March 2022.
Yeah.
And then during the April, we communicate every day with our students, with our colleagues, and then we return. And thank you. We very appreciate our administrators, our rector and our administrators of the university. They were on their workplaces every day, and they communicate with us online. And then we continue to continue our lectures, seminars not on the base of the university, but online. And now I have this meeting from my workplace at my department, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful that we can continue our work.
Yes.
We have. And not only archivists, but educators, university students, and we hope that we continue to develop our professional skills and to save our cultural heritage too.
Absolutely. Again, I'll open up or have you, our audience, unmute yourselves if you have a question. But to bridge between now and then, I will ask another question. What would you say are some lessons that you have learned, Maryna, that you have implemented to make yourself and your holdings a bit more secure?
One of the most valuable things I've learned is strength and support of the people, of colleagues, and the wonderful lesson from all of these awful things is that we have our national dignity and the strength of our, the power to be Ukrainians, the power to be the part of our state, not only national community, not only Ukrainian. We feel Ukrainians because we love our country, but we can have different national background. We love our country, we love our state, we love our work and our profession. And we understand that when we cooperate our in cooperation, we can be alive, and we can go to the main goal, to victory in this world, in this war.
Yes.
And I appreciate our army, our military forces. I appreciate our diplomacy. I appreciate our president because they represent the strength of Ukraine to the whole world. And the part of this strength is our historical background, is our heritage, is our profession too.
So admirable.
Archivists and historians is very valuable and is very powerful in this situation too.
Absolutely. We are in our last minute. I can't believe how quickly the hour has passed. I would like to let everyone know that if you have any follow-up questions, I have just put my email in the chat. You're more than welcome to contact me. Also, if you have any ideas about what our focus for Archival Vistas should be next year, we are open to your suggestions. But without further delay, let me just thank you, Dr. Paliienko, for joining us today. It's just been such a pleasure. I love getting to know you better, and I look forward to a lot more conversations with you in the future. And yes, go right ahead.
Thank you very much, dear Professor Trivet, for inviting, dear Karen, thank you very much for inviting me to Archival Vistas. And it was a real honor and pleasure to be with you and to share my knowledge and to share my knowledge about Ukrainian archives and archivists and university, my university, Kyiv University, with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. And just to remind you, we have the IAAS annual meeting next week, Tuesday, June 20th, at which we'll have some representation from SUCO there. So if you're interested in this challenge that the world is trying to grapple with right now, do tune in to the annual meeting next week. And certainly go to our microsite on the SAA website for all the details. I'm running out of time. I can't relay them all here. But again, you're welcome to contact me and we can follow up together. So I'm going to stop recording and I will ask Marina if you'll stay just for another minute or so. Let's see, stop recording.